Hello, hello. I'm trying to keep to get a sense of like whether people are here or not. I see one person in the chat and I see something that says live in red. So that's looking pretty good. And I just look at the attendee kind of section there. So it looks like we have a bunch of people. So I'm probably good to start. Let me share my screen here, and that means you won't probably be able to look at me, but you'll be able to look at my slide, which is much more interesting. Just saying hello here to people joining. So my name is Max, and welcome to my talk and to my bedroom too at the same time. And let me share my screen and get things started. I will share my entire screen, so that means you'll see the inception here of this, and then I will move to my slides, and I think I'm gonna hit the play button. So that means like for me, it's gonna be hard for me to see whether people are making comments like we can't hear you or you can't share your screen. So I'll try to do that periodically by coming here, looking at the chat. People are still able to see me and hopefully hear me, and I'll check periodically on the chat, but let me know if there's something going on in the chat. Otherwise, I will proceed with the talk. This talk, I gave an early version of this talk at the Airflow Summit. So if you have seen it in the past, there will be some reuse contents, but there will be also some brand new things. So it should still be interesting if you've seen the talk a while ago. And I think we're just like more ready to show more advanced features of Apache Superset for data engineers, data ops people. Here I called it advanced Apache Superset for data engineers, but it's really for engineers and data professionals. A little bit about me. So this is the slide that I get to reuse in all of my talks. So my name is Max. I have a passion for building data tools, and that's kind of what led me all the way to this virtual stage today. I started Apache Airflow while I was at Airbnb in 2014. It's been a little while already, but it's really interesting to see the rise of the data ops movement. I think I had not foreseen that back then, and I think it's kind of interesting, like new eras in data and the way data teams are operating, which is super interesting. A year after starting Apache Airflow at Airbnb, I started Apache Superset. So that's been 5 years or so, and that's been quite a ride. I've been working primarily on Apache Superset ever since. It's been super interesting. You'll see some of that, the fruits of that work in the entire community, today. And about 2 years ago, I started a company called Preset. So very much a company that's focused on building in and around Apache Superset, and we offer Superset as a service, all sorts of support services around everything related to Superset. The main thing being a SaaS service that is fully kind of hassle-free and hosted and loaded with the bells and whistles. So today is not about Preset. It's not a commercial or marketing for Preset. So very much we'll focus on talking about Apache Superset. A little bit more about me and things that are relevant to this community, right? To the people working the data engineering, data ops field. I've written this like tiny trilogy of blog posts over the years. So I wanted to mention it because I think if you're in this field, it's likely that you stumbled on one or many of these blog posts, and you can kind of connect the dots of like, oh, this post, maybe you read The Rise of the Data Engineer years ago, and now you can kind of connect the dots and see, okay, that's the guy who also wrote this. And it's also, if you have not read those posts, I would encourage you, if you're in this field, to take a read. I think they are still very relevant. More recently too, and now that I've been focusing a lot more on Apache Superset, we recently announced early this year that Superset 1.0 is out. So it's a good way for people here to learn more about Apache Superset, the recent milestones, and kind of what's going on in this space. I also encourage you to take a look at it. Last week I published The Future of Business Intelligence is Open Source, so that's an important kind of narrative and really something that's been dear to me over the past 5 years since I've been working on Apache Superset. I think with Superset 1.0 being out, we are very much here. We're ready where open source can really come and compete in the space, which is awesome. It is like very much a life goal for me to make sure that open source could come and really support all the functions and all the use cases across the data space. The agenda for today, so we have less time than I would like to have, so I'm going to have to go very quickly over things. So we have a lot to cover because there are a lot of more advanced features in Superset that more sophisticated users can take advantage of. So I'm hoping to go down this list very quickly. I'm going to blaze through a Superset demo, in 3.5 minutes, just so that people that are not familiar with Superset kind of understand what the product is about. We're going to look at SQL Lab for data engineers, so some slightly more advanced topics, templates, scheduling queries. We're going to talk a little bit about building custom data visualization plugins for Superset. We'll look into alerts and reports, and more generally at the REST API and kind of programmatic access to Superset. And all of that should be fairly interactive, so I'm going to be moving across these tabs here. All right, essentially going from the slides to the demo and a tiny bit of terminal. And so I know that's like what this kind of crowd expects too, so I should be able to follow right along. So I'm going to go into the extremely fast-paced demo of Superset, so I don't put to sleep the people who are already familiar with Superset. So Superset is essentially 3 sub-product under inside a business intelligence data visualization tool. First there's like a shell where we have the navigation. It's a full-on kind of application where people can kind of find their way around all this, right? So that's kind of at its core. It's a web application. Then it's this what I would call the dashboard app, right? So here you can consume dashboard. There's a dashboard editor, so for people to come in and add and remove components, right? Integrate say tabs in their dashboard or rows or little markdown type blurbs and things of that nature, right? So a dashboard editor, as you would expect. Now I'm going to discard these changes and get back to the dashboard and pivot to go into a different section of the app, or tiny bit more about dashboard. Those are highly kind of interactive dashboard with dynamic filtering. Here I did not enable any specific filters, but you get the idea that these are state-of-the-art kind of dynamic dashboards. Now I'm going to get into the other app that is called the no-code data exploration / data visualization publication area, where here, this is where you can navigate your data set here on the left panel, kind of understand the data set you're working with. There's a little bit more to this here where you have this data set editor. That's a little bit more of our semantic layer around the data set here. But I'm going to get this out of the way here and focus on the data visualization side of things, or the no code section of this Explorer window, where this is where you pick which type of visualization or visualization plugin you want to use. This is also where you apply kind of the time-related filters you're interested in, the metrics you want to plot, the kind of filters you want to apply, as well as more of the data visualization property of this data visualization as to whether you want to use different scales, or if you want to put some labels and things like that. So here, this is the data visualization section of it. And we have this data pane that's fairly recent too, where you'll see the data that is surfaced and used in order to generate the visualization that is up here, as well as kind of sample browser to see some of the underlying atomic row data behind this chart visualization. So that is the fastest tour I probably can give you of this. There's a lot more powerful features, and of course, as you switch from visualization type to another, you know, kind of what's possible here changes, and the options in those menus changes. But I'm gonna get quickly through this so we can move on to the presentation. So the other kind of the third main app I wanted to show is what we call SQL Lab, which is our state-of-the-art SQL IDE, where on one side you can navigate your database schemas. So here, I think the table we're using is this one here. So here you can navigate. So this is a super wide table with a bunch of columns. But you know, in here is where you can get a preview of the data. This is where you have this this editor, right? That you can, where you can write you know, complex SQL with rich autocomplete type features, right? And that is the extent of the tour. I'm going to flash very quickly the settings menu just to show that there's much more to it inside the information architecture of the product. We have some things I'm going to demo today, things like alerts and reports I'll get back to, action logs. This is also where you can manage like who has access to what, right? You can create different roles, different data access policies. Different people might have access to different data sets, database connections, and they might have different level access to the application itself, where you could say this class of user does not have access to SQL Lab, but they have only access to dashboard and not Explorer, right? So you get the idea that this is a full-fledged kind of business intelligence application. And I'm going to look back to make sure no one is screaming in the inception area. Cool. So I see that there's questions already. No one is screaming that things are not working. So I think I'm doing good, and I will proceed here. Let's see. And by the way, congrats everyone on surviving a year of COVID. I think it's amazing that it's coming to an end. I'm really looking forward to have this kind of conference in a real setting with real people, where it doesn't feel like I'm in my bedroom talking to my computer. So really excited that you know, the world is going to reboot, and I'll get to actually meet people that are interested in what I'm talking about in a real setting at a conference. So back to SQL Lab. So here I'm going to get a little bit deeper and show some more advanced features of SQL Lab that maybe your average SQL IDE might not offer, right? So I know that this crowd here of data ops folks, data engineers, you probably spend a way too large portion of your life writing SQL or dealing with SQL. So if you do, then it's good to know that, you know, it's good to use good tooling to do that. So the first thing is, I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with Jinja templating. So Jinja is a powerful templating engine in the Python world. And I think what's interesting about Jinja too is that it's used heavily. It's kind of baked deeply into things like Airflow and DBT. And beyond a lot of like what I would assume is like internal tooling, at least at the companies where I came from, places like Lyft, Airbnb, and Facebook. There was people would sprinkle some Jinja kind of everywhere. So here, what I wanted to show is that inside the UI here, you can assign arbitrary parameters as JSON in this context. So here I can say, I want for the variable ds to have this value in this context. And this allows for more interoperability with the tooling that I just mentioned, right? So here I could say, instead of year is bigger than this ugly kind of formula here, I could say, I actually want to template this. And it looks like my computer is suffering from just like being slow. I think like this presentation mode may be doing that. So here I can run a query with some Jinja parameters, and it should just compute, right? So maybe I can show that in a better way here by just showing more something like this. to show that it's actually getting replaced and parsed the right way. Here I'm trying to change my group by a limit 10 so that we get things to spin a little faster. So that's one thing I wanted to show. So here that means you could copy paste kind of your stuff from dbt, from Airflow, and they should just work here with the right replacement while you're iterating work on a query without having to replace by actual parameters. There's much more advanced features here, but one thing I wanted to show you too is, so now I pivoted, I'm in terminal. Hopefully everyone is still following. So I'm in the configuration file here for Superset. So this is the superset config.py. So that's an environmental type of configuration area. So that means that's something that you can manage, in your environment, and you can add things to the already existing context, Jinja context. So here I could say, I'm going to add a new function that is called, like, say, LO2, and it's going to say LO max, right? I can save this. And here, I can add this new section, this new kind of call where I'm going to call say underscore hello. Is there an underscore there? Yeah. Say hello to. That's a call, and I can run this. And then, it shows the thing. So I think there's some security implications here, but that means, like, as administrator inside your environments, you might want to expose a certain number of useful macros and things that are related to your internal policies and environments. And it's totally possible to do that from within Superset. So whether it's things that ensure interoperability with internal frameworks or dbt or Airflow, you can do it, or whether it's things that allow you to talk to, maybe you do something like presto dot, show owner name, right? So you could have your own set of functions that are relevant inside your organization, or constructs that you want people to reuse inside their jobs. So I'm not going to get too deep into that, but I just wanted to show that it's possible. The next thing I wanted to show is this schedule feature, and I have some slides on this. So here, going down the list, scheduling queries. So it's somewhat experimental, though. We used it in production at Lyft. We built at Lyft for internal users, so that people could schedule things. As you add this feature, it adds a new schedule query button. It's highly configurable. I think that's the thing that's really interesting about this feature, is we realize that when you schedule something, depending on the environment you're in, if you're at Lyft, at Airbnb, or whatever company you work at, you might want to request different type of information. So here, when you configure schedule queries, that is done via the same file that I was showing you. So that's an environmental configuration type of area, right? So here in my schedule query, I define a JSON schema, and depending on this JSON schema, it's going to change the form that will be generated here when you click schedule a query. So here it's possible to add, in this case, I'll demo it in just a second, but an array of dependency. It could be, only a list of choices that, you only enable people to schedule, daily, and you can also do your own validation, so that if someone is trying to do something that's invalid, you can return an error message and say, you're not meeting our criteria for scheduling something. So you could say, like, if you schedule something in SQL Lab in our environment, we don't allow you to schedule it for more than 30 days, for instance. So we're going to require that that this is a constraint, right? So I'll demo the feature very quickly here, and let's see, finding the right screen here. So as I click the schedule button, we get this pop-up that's dynamically generated from the configuration. I could add whatever field I want here. And something interesting about, like, the way we did this at Lyft is we wanted for people to create DAGs from here, or at least, like, to define dependencies in a Airflow kind of way, right? So what's happening on the other side is that Superset is not necessarily scheduling this, or Superset could be scheduling this, but what's happening is that Here we're just collecting metadata about what people want to schedule. And based on this metadata, we can implement this feature in different ways, right? And the way we did it at Lyft is we would have an Airflow DAG that would call the Superset REST API and say, give me the list of all the things that I need to schedule. And I'll show you how that works in just a second. But here, just as an example, I'm going to save something. So here I happen to be, asking for a table name, a start date, end date. So maybe I put something, just something arbitrary here. Schedule interval daily, and then here I could say like, oh, I want people to be able to add dependencies on maybe a set of different tables here with templating and kind of more advanced complex feature here. So I could say, okay, don't run this query until dim users partition is here, or until maybe an Airflow DAG ID, is not like fully loaded, right? So you can kind of implement your own semantics here. As I hit submit here, because my query has been scheduled, now it shows under save query here. So the thing that I just saved here is this thing over here. And what I wanted to show very briefly, I think, is that as I go to my API endpoint for save query, we should see kind of what I just scheduled here, right? So I've been playing with different ones. I don't know exactly which one it is. Maybe this one at the top here, or one of these three, right? So what I just scheduled here, like an Airflow thing, I think it might be this line over here, right? So we could have Airflow DAG, call this thing, and then weave a DAG based on the arrays and the queries that are the array of queries that is defined here. So the intent here is just to show you kind of what's possible to do here. It's extremely flexible. It's behind a feature flag. It allows you to customize, how you want people to schedule things in your organization. Next topic is visualization plugin. I'm looking at time here. It looks like I have 7 minutes. I'm going to have to go very quickly. The main piece of information here is if you're interested in contributing a new visualization plugin, and by that I mean basically here we have line chart, bubble chart, table chart, bar chart. If you want to build your own thing here, we have this plugin framework inside Superset that enables you to do this. On the blog at Preset, we published this blog post that is called "So You Want to Build a Superset Viz Plugin," and it walks you through everything that you can do there. Before I demo the plugin that I built, not last night, but the night before, I was able to find like an hour or two to build an interesting plugin. I want to say like what's exciting about plugins in Superset is potentially you can use that to build small data products, right? So you can use this to build little data applications where you don't really need to think too much about the wrapper or the context of it, right? And whatever you build, let me go through these bullet points here. You tap into Superset's data access layer. You tap into Superset kind of form controls, the rich controls. By that I mean the set of controls that are in the left panel here, right? All sorts of sliders and checkboxes and text fields and things like that. So you don't have to really go with very atomic primitives there. You can really focus on the visualization front end and not on the backend code, and as to are you going to retrieve information from your database, right? When you start building data products sometimes or data visualization, you have to think about, okay, what's going to talk to my BigQuery, my Snowflake, my data warehouse in general, and how am I going to take these controls to generate a query that's going to return data? How am I going to cache this stuff? How am I going to do the permissioning around this stuff? So all of that is already baked into Superset, and you can really just focus on the visualization in the front end. And anything you build, it can be composed into a dashboard. I'm going to try to demo this. So the thing that I added, so I like Tetris. I think it's an interesting game here, and I decided, oh no, let me make sure that this works. So maybe my demo is not working now. It could be that I need to rebuild some things and I have 5 minutes to get it to work. But I had Tetris working here, and I think I've been messing with my environment. Let me just make sure, see if I can find the chart that I saved to get it to run. The demo did not work. All right, I'll try to find like an image of it, or see if I can fix it real quick too. I'll just rebuild the JavaScript and maybe I'll get lucky. So I'm gonna rebuild the bundle. But basically what I had done here is I had the game of Tetris that was rendered inside Superset, and I could save it and add it to a dashboard. I'll go and make sure to see if it works in the context of the dashboard. But this morning, I think I messed with my environment. I switched branches and touched some things, and I probably broke it. But the intention was just to show you, it's fairly doable. It's not too hard to go and add a new plugin and distribute it and share it, open source it, which I think is interesting. I think it would have been called some new dashboard. That was the one. I'll just see if the Tetris implementation works inside the dashboard. Same issue. All right. Well, I'll see if like rebuilding the JavaScript, which is rebuilding now, like in a rerunning Webpack fixes it. If not, we'll just put that on the failed demo pile. A few more things I want to show. I'm not going to get too hung up on this. One thing is under settings here, there's a powerful alerting and reporting features that we've baked into Superset recently that was highly demanded by the community. So you see there's alerts and reports. Reports are just charts and dashboard that gets delivered periodically either through Slack, email, or other channels that we can kind of slap on top. And alerts are, let me demo this very quickly, or at least just show you the screen in the few more minutes that I have. So this is a place where you can say, sales are down or something like that, right? So I can create whatever alerts in the form of a database query here. So I could say, this should run against BigQuery every minute or every 5 minutes or, every day or every month. And this query can be arbitrarily complex. So it could be it's like the sum of sales, from fact sales or whatever it might be. Here it can be templated. It can be kind of fully complex queries as written in SQL Lab. And then you can add a condition that says, if the sales are, so here sales all down. So if they're smaller or equal to I don't know, a certain amount, then send this dashboard or this chart either through email or through Slack, right? So if it's Slack, it could be to a list of people or a channel, something of that nature. So that gets pretty interesting, right? That can be a way that you deliver things to people's inboxes or on Slack. It can be alerts. It can be just periodic reports. And the last feature that I can show you in the last few minutes that I have is when you run Superset, and that's optional for security reason, but I have the flag on. It looks like right now I can't serve it. I mean, I'll go straight to the documentation here. But like when you run Superset, you have access to the Swagger, to the REST API documentation in the app. And then we have this massive REST API that enables you to essentially do everything that you can do inside Superset. You can do programmatically through the REST API. So here earlier, we looked at what we call save query, right? And save query as a certain number of endpoints if you want to go and create, if you want to look at a list, look at individual save query and create like CRUD type operation, create, update, delete, modify. You can do that through here. And this relates nicely to reports and alerts. So that means that you could be very much be generating reports and alerts programmatically at your heart's content. And with that, I'm bummed that the Tetris demo did not work. So I'll try one last time to see whether rebuilding JavaScript brought it back to life. This was going to be the most festive moment of this presentation. And it's the biggest letdown of this presentation. So apologies for that. I'll try to post a YouTube video or something. And with that, I think we are at time. So I covered most of what I wanted to cover today, and hopefully you're excited about some of the stuff that is coming through on the Superset side. And I think I'm going to try to see if I can answer some questions on the chat. So if people want to stay, I know you probably need to go to your next session too. So I want to be respectful to the next wave of people that are presenting next too, so make sure you're not missing out on things. But if you're more interested about me answering questions in the Slack, I'll be happy to do so. Where to find me? I'm Mr. Crunch on GitHub, on Twitter, and I'm fairly active on direct message on the Superset Slack. So if you haven't joined the Superset Slack, please check it out. Check out our documentation, join our community. And if you're looking for a hosted service around Superset, Preset is the place. So you can come to our website and click the request access button. Preset is ready, and we're happy to run like trials and POCs with folks. One last comment for the people who are still here. We're hiring too, so we're at a startup is about 45 people now, but we're looking to double as fast as we can, as all startups are often doing. So if you're interested in work on open source, work on data viz, please reach out directly to me, either LinkedIn, Slack, whatever channel. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy your day at Data Ops Unleashed.